You ever see something so ridiculous, so over the top, that for a second you wonder if you're dreaming? That's how it started, water shooting into the sky like a busted Vegas fountain, soaking everything in sight, turning our sleepy little cul-de-sac into a full-on water park. Folks were running out of their houses in pajamas and rain boots, shouting, pointing, trying to figure out what the heck just happened. But above all the noise, you know whose voice cut through. Yep, Karen Whitfield, our beloved HOA president, marching out like she owned the world, waving her arms, already working herself into a fury. And you know what she said? She looked the firefighters dead in the eye and told them, "You can't park here. You're violating HOA regulations." I'm not kidding. I'm standing ankle-deep in muddy water, socks ruined, and I'm watching this woman try to chase off a fire engine. The firefighters? Not even blinking. They're running hoses, shouting orders, doing their best to keep the water from flooding the entire block. But Karen, she's not one to be ignored. She whips out her phone, snapping photos of the truck's license plate, talking about towing it at the owner's expense. Yes, you heard that right. She wanted to tow a fire truck. This all started because some poor contractor clipped a water main. Within minutes, the pressure dropped. Water was gushing into one of the houses, and suddenly the fire department shows up. Quick, by the way, I'll give them that. Their truck blocked half the road, but nobody cared, not when your neighbor's kitchen is turning into an aquarium. Nobody but Karen. She barrels up to the fire captain, finger pointed, looking like she's about to start reciting the HOA bylaws from memory. "You have no right to block our street," she barks. "Commercial vehicles aren't allowed to park here without written permission." I swear, the captain just blinked at her, then turned around and kept shouting orders, which, honestly, was probably the only sane response. But Karen doesn't take ignore for an answer. She announces to anyone who'll listen that she's calling the tow company, the one the HOA uses for all those violations she's so fond of. The whole street gasps. One firefighter, dragging a hose, mutters, "Lady, this is an emergency." But that just makes her dig in more. She plants herself right in front of the fire engine, heels slipping in the water, hair plastered to her face, looking like she's ready for battle. About 10 minutes later, here comes this white tow truck creeping down the street, backup lights flashing, and my stomach just drops. She actually did it. The driver gets out, sees the fire truck, and just starts laughing, because, come on, how do you even begin to tow a fire engine? But Karen shoves a clipboard at him, tells him it's an HOA violation, and if he doesn't do his job, she'll have his company report it. Meanwhile, the firefighters are losing their minds, trying to keep water from running into every basement on the block. The captain finally snaps. He storms over and shouts, "Move aside before you're arrested for obstruction." You could hear the seriousness in his voice, but Karen just folds her arms and hisses, "You answer to the law, and this neighborhood has rules. You're not above them." The tow truck driver looks like he wants to melt into the sidewalk, muttering about how his rig can't even move a fire engine, air brakes, chains, all that. "Karen? Then call another. Bring 3 if you have to. I mean, you can't make this stuff up." Neighbors are filming now, a couple of folks shouting at Karen to back off, but she's lost in her own world. Then, the fire captain radios quietly for help, and a few minutes later, a police cruiser rolls up. Now the energy shifts. Everyone goes quiet. The cop steps out, takes in the chaos, the flooding street. Fire truck, tow driver, Karen in full meltdown mode. Karen sprints over, waving papers at him, demanding arrests for trespassing, demanding the fire truck be towed. The bylaws are clear. The cop looks at her, looks at the fire engine, back at her, and you can practically see the wheels turning in his head. He finally says, real calm, "Ma'am, this is an active emergency scene. You need to step back immediately." Karen goes red, like nuclear meltdown red. "No," she snaps. "The only emergency here is you taking over our street without authorization." The cop tries to explain, the fire department is the law in this situation. They're authorized to do whatever's necessary. Karen's not having it. "Then I'll file a civil complaint. This HOA has rights." And then, before anyone can stop her, she marches right up and grabs one of the fire hoses. I swear, she yanks it like she's pulling weeds. The hose whips around, sprays her, the captain, half the crowd, total chaos. Phones up everywhere, because everyone knows this is going viral. The cop lunges, grabs her arm, tells her she's interfering with emergency personnel. Karen screaming, twisting away. "Don't touch me. I know my rights." The tow driver just nopes out, backs up, hops in his truck, peels out of there, probably calling his boss like, "You're not gonna believe what I just saw." Two more cruisers show up. Now it's a full scene. Karen, soaked, mascara running, wild-eyed, still yelling about bylaws and authority. The officer explains to the new arrivals she interfered with emergency operations, tried to have the fire truck towed, tampered with equipment. You could feel the tension, not anger, just disbelief. Karen, brushing her hair back, insists, "I'm the HOA president. I have authority. These men work for me." And at that point, the fire captain, dripping wet, finally loses it. "Lady, you nearly compromised an entire block. We were seconds from disaster. And you're worried about HOA rules." That's when the second cop steps forward, all business. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for obstruction and interfering with emergency services." She shrieks, "No, you can't do this. I'm the victim." She's slipping and thrashing, but they finally get the cuffs on her. Suddenly the street is dead silent, except for the last few splashes from the hydrant. Karen, our rule enforcer-in-chief, standing cuffed in front of the whole neighborhood. All those folks she's fined and hassled over trash cans and mailbox colors. The firefighters go back to work. Water starts to recede, tow truck's long gone, but Karen's shiny SUV is still parked there, like some kind of monument. As the officers lead her to the cruiser, someone in the crowd starts clapping. Then another, and pretty soon the whole block's applauding. Karen's screaming, "You'll all regret this. Traitors." But the only thing you hear is the cruiser door slamming shut. And just like that, gone. By morning, the videos were everywhere. Karen Whitfield, HOA president, the woman who tried to tow a fire truck during a disaster, now world famous, in handcuffs, soaked and furious for everyone to see. And let me tell you, if there's one thing I learned that night, nobody, not even Karen Whitfield, is above the law. So what about you? If you'd been standing in that flood with your shoes ruined, watching all this play out, what would you have done? Drop your answer below. Let's hear what you think about rules, emergencies, and neighbors who just don't know when to stop. And hey, don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe for more wild HOA stories, and I'll see you in the comments. Now, you'd think after all that, after being hauled away in handcuffs with half the neighborhood filming, Karen Whitfield would just lay low for a while. Maybe take a sabbatical from her iron-fisted HOA reign. Yeah, you'd think. But that's the thing about people like Karen. Humiliation doesn't hit them the way it hits the rest of us. If anything, it just makes them double down. And you better believe she did. Next morning, my phone was blowing up. Texts. Group chat memes. Even my uncle from 3 streets over sent me a clip of Karen's meltdown with some pretty creative edits. You know, air horns, and that meme font that makes everything look even dumber. By noon, everyone in Maple Grove knew what went down. Some folks were talking lawsuits. Others were asking if the HOA could even function without her. Though honestly, I don't think anyone wanted to find out. But around 3 in the afternoon, just as the last of the news vans were packing up and the street had almost returned to normal, a familiar black Mercedes crept around the corner. I'll admit, I half expected it to be the police coming back for round 2. Nope, it was Karen. Out she came, hair done, sunglasses on, striding up the sidewalk like she was walking a red carpet instead of making a walk of shame. And, oh, she had a new folder under her arm. Official-looking, gold HOA emblem stamped right on the cover. Neighbors started poking their heads out, whispering. Some folks were straight-up bold, phones out, pretending to water the lawn while they filmed. You know how it is. But Karen didn't flinch. She walked right up to the old community notice board at the corner and started posting something. 6 sheets, all printed on fancy paper, with that unmistakable legal jargon font. A little crowd gathered. She cleared her throat, did her best presidential smile, and said, "Due to the recent egregious violations of our community's standards, I am calling an emergency HOA meeting." I almost laughed out loud. She really thought she could just walk back into the role like nothing happened. Even the kids riding by on bikes slowed down to stare. And here's the kicker. She actually blamed us for what happened. claimed the fire department's disregard for procedure endangered our homes, that the real scandal was the community undermining the authority of the HOA. I swear, I looked around to see if I was on some hidden camera show. People started arguing, voices rising. Some folks sided with her, or at least pretended to, probably because they didn't want to end up on her bad side. But most were just tired. Tired of the drama, tired of the pettiness, tired of living like their mailbox color could spark World War III. That's when the twist really hit. Out of nowhere, here comes Ed, the retired fire chief, lives 2 doors down, always wore that faded Denver Broncos hat, and mowed his lawn like clockwork. Ed never talked much at HOA meetings, just nodded and grunted, but today, he was carrying a stack of his own papers, thick as a phone book. He stepped up to Karen, real calm, and said, "Actually, Karen, I've already contacted the county and the state. You violated state emergency law. You interfered with first responders. And as of today, there's a petition signed by 47 homeowners to hold a recall vote on your position." You should have seen Karen's face. She froze, lips twitching, eyes darting, the whole neighborhood watching. You could feel the energy shift. For the first time, Karen didn't have the floor, Ed did. And then more people stepped up. Ms. Alvarez from the corner house, whose basement had flooded. Caleb with the pickup, who always got ticketed for parking too close to the curb. Even Mrs. Harris, who'd gotten cited for having a flower pot out of regulation. They all had stories, receipts, frustration boiling over from years of petty fines and angry letters. Karen tried to shout them down, but nobody was listening anymore. Ed looked her in the eye and said, "Your rules don't override the law, and you don't get to bully people here anymore." The crowd murmured, some even clapped. Karen, suddenly not so tall, turned on her heel, muttering something about lawyers and slander, but no one stopped her as she marched back to her Mercedes, tires squealing as she sped off down the block. That night, the recall petition hit every mailbox, digital, paper, you name it. For once, the community felt alive, but not in that tense, walk-on-eggshells way. People waved, talked in the street, even planned a potluck to celebrate the hydrant being fixed. Yeah, we actually threw a party for plumbing. But it felt bigger than that, like a spell had broken. Now, there's talk of rewriting the bylaws, making the HOA less of a fiefdom and more of what it was supposed to be, a group that helps, not hassles. Karen? She's gone quiet, for now at least. Maybe she's plotting, maybe she's learned. Who knows? But nobody's scared of her anymore. And let me tell you, that's a win all on its own. But what do you think? Can a neighborhood ever really change, or do folks like Karen just come back with a new folder and a fresh list of rules? I want to hear your stories, your verdict. What would justice look like if it was up to you? Drop a comment. Hit that like button if you've ever survived an HOA nightmare, and stick around for the next wild chapter. Something tells me, in this neighborhood, it's never really over.